Hey everyone, welcome to Catalyst Energies. My name is Dee. Thank you for joining me. I'm so grateful that you're here for this weekend astrology report. We're looking at the astrology for December 5th and 6th of 2020. We are preparing for the third quarter moon, which is going to be on the 7th, Monday, and is going to be in Virgo, squaring our Sagittarius sun. And this will be a reckoning, and not a reckoning on a mass global level, although that will be part of it with the sun in Sagittarius. Remember, Sagittarius is about our collective spiritual values, our belief systems. But with the moon, we're talking about how we feel, and it's very personal experience. And in Virgo, this is really the part of the chart where the rubber meets the road on an individual level. The moon now is in Leo. There's a lot of really strong, passionate feelings right now, and especially are being very well supported by all of the other fire energies. So there's a trine to the sun in Sagittarius today on the 5th. There's a trine to Mars in Aries today on the 5th. And so this yearning for self-actualization, this passion for the soul to manifest itself is going to be very supported by an actual expression through the collective value system, as well as Mars, our warrior, the representation of our divine masculine, also in its home sign of Aries. So it just moving forward with self-actualization. So there's a lot of passion, a lot of fire today. And then when the moon moves into Virgo tomorrow, this will be when all of that yearning and passion to express who we are, the feelings to be who we are each individually, is then going to be brought back down into the soil, under the surface, and start actually being utilized to build our character. And this is where the reckoning, I think, is really going to come from, because with the square to the sun on Sunday, it's going to be an eruption, an emotional eruption, and a crisis in consciousness. That is the third quarter square. Is what we've learned from the full moon, which was an eclipse in this situation, so it wasn't fully illuminated. We had to really work for it to see what we are learning and letting go in that situation. And now, what is it that we are conscious of? Where is our conscious attention going to go? Is it going to go on this eruption with the moon in Virgo, literally the Sabian symbol? And by the way, 17 degrees, the sun and the moon, if we round up for the Sabian symbol, 17 degrees. Are we going to be in this volcanic eruption of our emotions as a result of this personal reckoning? Or are we going to identify through this expression of a rebirth, a collective rebirth? So there's no way to resolve this other than just leaning into it and feeling it for what it is. And this will really help set the tone for the rest of this lunar cycle that leads up to the solar eclipse on the 14th, which in my opinion is way more it has way more impact than this this great conjunction with Jupiter and Saturn. It is a great conjunction. I'm not trying to diminish its importance, but a conjunction is a very, it's a very swift and immediate aspect. It comes together, the energy is released, and they move on, okay? It certainly will impact us, but not as much as this eclipse. The solar eclipse will reverberate for months to come, okay? And so that somebody that I really respect as an energy worker and astrologer, she had said that, eclipses tend to impact the timeline. And I think that is a really good way to think about it, as opposed to conjunctions, which is like a coming together and releasing, right? Coming together and releasing, and then it's over, right? But this eclipse is a big deal. Okay, so let's get into the minutia here of these charts so we can see what's going on. As I said, the moon is square the sun, or trine the sun, the moon is trine Mars in Aries. That passion and yearning for actualization is going to be very strong this weekend. Now, the other part of this is that Venus in Scorpio is in a trine to Neptune in Pisces, now direct. Now, you remember, this is the same degree that the sun in Scorpio was trine Neptune, Mercury in Scorpio is trine Neptune. The difference is that Neptune is direct now. So as opposed to before, when we were kind of in this hanged man position with Neptune and Pisces, we were trusting the process, trusting the plan, trusting that we will get the instruction from the master, the guru, from the spiritual experience that Pisces represents, right? Inspiration, the dream state. It is the ocean of consciousness. Now that Neptune is direct, that is happening. The master instructing the disciple, the transmission is now coming through, and it will be channeled through in a very palpable way through our relationships, through what we value in our material world. It will be very physically palpable. Venus is what we love and who we love, but it's also about what we value, what satisfies our desires for beauty and balance. It's going to come through as a channeled message in a very palpable way, okay? And these are water elements, okay? Something else to keep in mind is the moon in Leo does square Venus today in Scorpio. So these are fixed energies, fixed fire, fixed water. This is they're always really, you know where you stand with these squares when they're in fixed energies, but at the same time, there's not a lot of budging. And for as excited as we are with this moon in Leo, we're going to really want to discover, and our mind is really thrilled to discover things, and kind of the inquiry here with the moon in Leo is on the feeling, the personal feeling about it is going to be really strong. But the square, again, is coming from Venus that is kind of in this moment here of, you know, looking at, here's the symbol. Let me just give you the symbol. It'll make more sense. The symbol is a path through the woods, brilliant with multicolored splendor, right? The exalted feeling of a work well done, right? You're walking through the woods, and when you see in a deciduous forest in autumn, when you see everything, when you see all the leaves turning colors, that is an indication that things are dying, right? That the tree is going to go into its hibernation period, that the cycle is ending. But at the same time, you bask in it. You see it for what it is. It is something that you feel like a work well done, because you see there's a lot of beauty to it. So Venus, again, there's kind of this cycle wrapping up in terms of power dynamics, the resources that we share in relationships, what we've discovered about our collective relationships. Venus is kind of at this pattern of just like, oh, I see kind of the whole picture now. Whereas the moon, how we each individually feel, is going to be like, well, I want to keep digging into this. I'm really excited about what I'm learning. So again, leaning into the square, feeling where the discomfort is, feeling how those trajectories aren't going in the same direction, and seeing what we can learn from it. Beyond that, the moon is actually going to also quincunx Neptune, right? Quincunx and in conjunct. We individually, each of us may feel very strongly about this inquiry, wanting to get into the deeper meanings of things and really investigate. And again, Neptune is about the collective experience. Neptune dissolves everything into one. And that is not, and the transmission that's coming through about that is going to override where we individually feel. Okay. So again, it's important that we don't completely fully identify with our feelings and our action, because that's, we need to come to an adjustment with this as well, and trust, right? We've surrendered ourselves long enough, and now we are kind of getting the transmission now, right? The Hanged Man was reversed in the reading on Friday, yesterday. It's time now. The information's coming in, the transmission is coming in, the inspiration is coming in. We can't get too wrapped up in our own feelings of like, oh, I want to get into this, because it's not going to last, right? It's not going to last. It's not as strong as Neptune and Pisces, okay? So as we move through the day, let's see what else is going on here. And then the moon is also going to sextile the North Node as well. The North Node now is really in this position in Gemini where we can we can really take advantage of the multitude of options here in terms of ideas, thought processes, the whole thing. You know, it's like a buffet right now. And so, and the North Node of the moon is where we're headed. Our collective values or our collective karma is where we're headed, where we are meant to grow. And so taking, you know, going to the buffet of our ideas and concepts and being like, oh, look at this, I can put this on my plate and put this on my plate. But if you take too much, then you end up wasting it, right? So you have to also be mindful of that. And we can really identify personally through the worship of nature and the creative power and glorifying natural energies. And I think that this can really benefit us if we're able to sanctify this process, because then we can, and there are a lot of options, right? There are a lot of options of how we can do this. And the important thing is that we are willing to glorify the natural energies and not take too much, but at the same time, see that there are a lot of avenues that we can go through here. And it doesn't have to be this one singular position. And we move on to the 6th. So let's do that here. All right. I hope you all are doing well. You can even tell by my tone right now that that moon in Leo is just really firing things up. Oh my gosh. And the Schumann, I don't know if you've been tracking it, but the Schumann was off the charts yesterday. I don't know what happened exactly, but it was just, you know, the Schumann resonance at a natural, and it's at its natural, you know, default position is like 7 to 8 hertz. It was like 500. Okay. I don't know what happened, but it happened right around that time the fire trine was happening. So something really major changed the energy of our electric magnetic field from 7 hertz to 500. Okay. So something really big shifted yesterday with that fire trine. And if you had listened to the report about it and knew that there was, it was really important for us to just be in that fire, then I think it was okay. Otherwise, I think people may have like blown a fuse with that. So we now are looking at the 6th, and let's see here. Lots of quincunxes. I talked about this in the weekly, actually. Quincunxes all over the place. You can see all of the green here, all of these quincunxes. So we have the moon in Leo still is going to quincunx all of the Capricorn energy as well. We are starting to really concentrate and really focalize our energy. Because the thing about Leo in its highest form is that when we express ourselves fully of who we are, what we're allowing is for divine energy to move through us, for God to move through us. That is when we allow passion and charisma and that lion energy to be fully expressed. It's really an opening for the Kundalini energy to move through. But we have to understand that that doesn't come from us. That comes from source. But again, total concentration upon inner spiritual attainment. It's really going to start ramping up at this point, and it's going to be in a quincunx to Pluto. And if you've noticed, Pluto is at a degree right now, the woman entering the convent, okay? The convent is a structure created collectively that identifies that it's important to step away and to give people the space to completely concentrate on their relationship to God. But it's something that is absolutely created by the collective consciousness, right? The collective values that we find in Sagittarius, right? And then you come into Capricorn and it's an actual structure. A convent is something that's actually created and provided for people to do this. Now, this is where Pluto is. And if you've noticed that people are just dropping like flies in terms of their trust in the plan, their trust in their spiritual groundedness, all of the aspects that normally have been provided for us to focus completely are being pulled away. They're being pulled away and destroyed. And this is how we transform, okay? The quincunx here is with the moon in Leo that's just like, well, I'm still completely focused on spiritual attainment from a personal and individual process. And when when the structures and the institutions that normally allow us the opportunity to do this are falling away and falling away and falling away, it can make it much more difficult. And so again, the adjustment on how we do this, the concentration on inner spiritual attainment is going to be, it's going to be very much needed as we move into the moon in Virgo. Like I said, personal reckoning, okay? The moon is also going to quincunx Jupiter as well, and also then come into a quincunx with Saturn. So again, we're getting to this point of really actualizing ourselves from a personal, individual perspective and in a strong feeling, but at the same time, it's not really fitting in with what's going on outside of us in the matrix of reality, and will require an adjustment as we move through the 6th, okay? Venus is also quincunx Mars, so you have the divine feminine in Venus, divine masculine in Mars. Mars is, you know, sailing above everything on his magic carpet right now. It's just like, you know, and it's very focused on his mission, what he's here to do to actualize himself. Whereas Venus has been much more focused on and really struggling with, well, the depth of feeling when it comes to these shared relationships and the power struggles within them. So again, there is going to be a need for an adjustment between these two because their trajectories are completely different, still very passionate and driven, but one is about the self and the ego, and the other is about the collective collective resources, the dynamics in our relationships and the depth of feeling and what's going on under the surface. So the other quincunx that's really important today is that Mercury is going to quincunx Uranus in retrograde. And I talked about this on the weekly. This has like the brewing of an eruption just written all over it. So in our minds, there is this psychic gestation. There is this, it's like, you know, these new elements are being formed under the surface. And when we're talking about Mercury, we're talking about in our mind, there's new elements being formed within the core of our mental processes right now. And the adjustment is going to have to come from Uranus. That's just like, well, your mind is gestating things psychically, but the physical reality around you, Taurus, and what you value is being disrupted, and you need to start thinking ahead. And again, this adjustment is going to be really important when we come into the square, because this just has eruption written all over it. And it will be, and with Taurus, Uranus in Taurus, it is going to be in a physical, material way. Whereas all the other things you could probably, look at it as a, more of an archetypal and individual experience, but just be prepared that this adjustment here is going to be what we need to come back to when the actual volcanic eruption emotionally does happen, which is what's going to be the 17 degrees of Virgo with the moon when it squares the sun on Monday. So where else are we at? Then the moon moves into Virgo and then is going to quincunx Chiron as well. And this is when we start becoming very aware of what we don't normally see. And all of that yearning and actualization that we felt is now going to be applied to the actual work we have to do on ourselves. It's one thing to just feel the yearning and to have the energy move through us and let the passion and the pride and all of that and move through us. That's one thing. Now it's time to get serious. It's time, and this is where the reckoning happens, because you can't bypass anything in Virgo. If you want the fruit to bear seed for the next cycle, you have to have strong roots, and they have to be doing the job under the surface of bringing the nutrients up into the plant. There's no getting around it, right? This is the focus goes back down into the soil. It's not out here in our expression. And this is where the real work's going to come in. And there's, like I said, there's just no bypassing it. There's a reckoning here that's coming, each of us emotionally. And we get to decide when that square happens on the 7th, do we see this as a rebirth collectively, or do we feed into our emotional fear? You know, that's the thing about Chiron. Again, the moon is going to quincunx Chiron, Chiron being the representation of our victim and savior dichotomy, you know, our wounding that continues to draw us back to our identity as a victim. And again, an adjustment's going to be made, because we're going to have to start seeing, we're going to start having an opening of new levels of consciousness with this moon on a very personal and intuitive level. And it is not going to fit very well with where Chiron is. And so these are incredible opportunities, but wow, we are on the cusp of something amazing. So that's the weekend report. It is significant. And I will be back to do the weekly on Monday for the third quarter square, and then on into the fourth quarter. There will be a solar eclipse reading coming up, or a report coming up as well. We'll talk about the solstice and not just the solstice, but the whole season, the whole winter season in the Northern Hemisphere. Southern Hemisphere, it'll be summer, but we'll talk about what to expect for the end of the astrological year with this conjunction, right? But the solar eclipse is really going to be the most impactful in terms of long-term effects. And I want to put a lot of time onto that, because it's the sun and moon are coming together at the galactic center on our south node. Okay. It's karmic. It's incredibly potent and will last for a long time. But in the meantime, take care of yourself this weekend. It's okay to feel passion. It's okay to want to feel this strong urge to actualize ourselves individually, but not to get too pulled into it, and to make sure to give yourself some stillness and some time to let these transmissions come through very naturally, through being receptive, okay? It's important that we nurture that part of ourselves too. So take care of yourselves. Everything you need is in the description box below. If you find this content helpful or interesting, please consider subscribing. Definitely hit the like button. It gets the information out there. And I will see you guys on the next video.